Welcome to Wales, where we're here to test the very latest Mark IV Mazda MX-5. But first, a bit of an argument.
Because, Rich, I think that new things are always better. For example, the McLaren P1, faster, smarter, just better.
No, Alex. McLaren F1, it's the original. It's far better.
Keira Knightley.
Kylie Minogue.
Red Tube.
Playboy.
What about Gran Turismo?
Outrun. See, that's the issue I have with the Mark IV MX-5. No doubt it's a great car, but it's been built to preserve the driving dynamics of the original Mark I MX-5 that we all love. So, well, if they built it to copy the original, why not just buy the original? Retro is better.
Mazda has worked hard to keep the driving dynamics of this, the Mark IV MX-5, as close as possible to the winning recipe of the Mark I. Power has soared from 115 to 158 brake horsepower, but the basic recipe is the same, as it was on the Mark II and the Mark III as well. The power, chassis dynamics and amount of grip are all served up in equal, if modest, helpings to give a great package that anyone can enjoy at any time, even on a damp Welsh racetrack. There's a 1.5 litre model, and then there's this, the 2 litre Sport.
You see, Alex, I think you'd have just as much fun in a Mark I as you would a Mark IV. These things are 10% of the cost to buy, they're appreciating in value, they can be run on classic car insurance, and rust aside, they are pretty robust.
And you do have quite a bit of rust, don't you?
No, that's not rust, that's patina.
Patina. So then, Rich thinks that older is better, and his evidence for this is his part-way through restoration Mark I MX-5. It's one of the oldest in the country, if not the oldest. Yeah, it's got a few rough edges, but something that he was at pains to point out, and I actually agree with, is that you can buy one of these for a couple of grand. They're cheap. And for what I'm actually experiencing, and for what this does, they seem like amazing value. The steering is lovely. It's happy. It's a bit light. It's a bit on the light side, but it feels direct and it feels good. The throttle response, brilliant. The brakes, less so. The gearbox is one of Mazda's things. Like the MX-5's gearbox has always been the thing to go for because it's brilliant. Is stunning for a car made in the late 80s. This feels far better than a lot of cars you can buy today. Now, having driven the Mark IV, which feels a bit more modern, a bit more grown up, a bit more sorted, this doesn't feel a million miles away, you know, for a tenth of the price. And I think it looks good as well. I think it looks really good. The Mark I's have aged immensely well. I'm tempted to be rude about the Brummy man's car, purely just to make him feel bad about himself, but I don't really want to, because this thing is fantastic. Yes, it's rough around the edges, yes, it's old, yes, I have to watch the temperature gauge because on this one it can be a little bit odd. I can see why Rich is a bit down on the ND, on the Mark IV, because the NA still stands up, it's still fantastic. And you know what? The proof of that is in the enormous modification scene. The fact that you keep seeing these all over the place with silly wheels on them or induction kits or, you know, anything done to them, just to personalise them, to make them their owners. And because Mazda's sold nearly 1 million MX-5s over the years, if you want one, you can have one. It's not an unattainable beast. You can push it as hard as you want and it'll just fly. New is a bit better and it's a little bit sharper and it's a bit quicker and I think it looks a bit better, but old is more attainable. And if old can make me feel 99% as good as the new one makes me feel for a lot less money, I'm kind of tempted to buy the old.
Now, this is the first time that I've ever driven a Mark IV, it's a new car. I have driven a Mark III and a Mark II, and of course that Tati Mark I is my own, so I'm pretty familiar with MX-5's driving dynamics. This car just feels like more of the same. Okay, we've got an extra gear, we've got 158 bhp, which is quite a lot more than the 115 in the Mark I. But you've got the same pretty sharp steering, even though now it's electric, not hydraulic. The same kind of feeling that you're leaning over on your tyres a little bit. So the specs, okay, you can spec these cars fairly high. This is a 2-litre sport model, and it's got a couple of extras on it that I'm not entirely sure that are really needed. I've got a blind spot assist, I've got a lane warning departure, all the buttons for this are down here, and it might not add weight, but it certainly adds cost, and I'm really not sure it's needed on a car like this. Blind spot assist, I mean, the visibility in this thing is fantastic. It's a convertible, for goodness sake. One of the reasons people love Mark 1 MX-5s is the styling, that knockoff Lotus Elan pop-up headlight funkiness. Everybody loves that. You always get let out at junctions, and, well, it isn't a threatening car. It's a sports car without being in your face, but this, I have to say, I really don't like the styling of this car. It's got a face like a kicked Alsatian, all aggressive and snarly, and maybe Mazda have done that thinking they'll sell a few more cars to blokes who want a sports car, but this isn't really a hardcore sports car. This is just a weekend car. It doesn't need that nasty face. I want to be let out at junctions. I'd be quite tempted to buy one of these, but actually buy the 1.5, because for all of its faux sportiness, it is faux sportiness. You don't really buy these for dedicated track cars. You can do the odd track day in it, but the appeal of an MX-5 is it can be a daily driver that you enjoy the odd track day with, the odd trip to the seaside, and generally just a bit of fun on B roads. So I don't really think you need this 2-litre, because you're always chasing more power anyway. Best not to bother, just enjoy what you've got, enjoy the modest levels of grip, the modest levels of power. It's a damn good car. Just don't want to admit that to Alex.
Yes, this is quite expensive. It's 20,000-ish pounds. And yes, it does have lots of mod cons like traction control and ABS and airbags and heated seats. It's quite chilly out, but my bottom is being warmed delightfully. 0 to 60 in a shade over 7 and a top speed of over 130 miles an hour. They aren't overwhelming numbers. Driving-wise, it's hilarious fun. Yeah, it's a little bit wallowy in the corners, but this is a standard MX-5. This is what happens before people do stuff to it. This has taken everything that the Mark 1 has done and updated it for 2015. Your old car may be the purest, the earliest of the breed, but right now you couldn't sell the old one. Today, you can sell this. This carries the spirit of it brilliantly.
You've got to remember that this is a 25-year-old car now, and they were kind of a bit cheap and tinny when they were new, and they haven't gotten better with age, but you have to look beyond these slightly ugly cosmetic issues, because what you have underneath is a fantastic little car. This is the only car that makes me feel like my first ever drive. You know that feeling you have when you pass your test, you get your first car, your first set of insurance, and you head out on your own for the first time and you're grinning. You can go anywhere and you can do anything. Well, the weird thing is, that car makes me feel like this, even though I've been driving for 500 years because I'm old and wrinkly. I simply love driving it. I bought it 10 years ago for a banger rally, and it's basically had nothing spent on it until a few months ago when finally, with another MOT fell under its belt, I had the suspension done, gearbox done, roof done, seats done, a couple of new wings and a bit of new paint, and it's still not perfect. These shouldn't be treated as garage queens. These cars are to be driven. They're supposed to be cars you can rely on for weekend trips out, for the odd track day, maybe even a bit of drifting too, some cheap tyres on it. The cars that everybody can enjoy.
iPads.
No, Rubik's Cubes.
All right, what about Lewis Hamilton?
Senna, every time. And I think Senna would appreciate the pure driving experience of a Mark 1 MX-5.
He probably would have liked it, but you say this is one of the oldest in the country, but with all you've done to it, it's probably one of the newest as well. Still, I do get it. It is pure, low cost, low speed, low power, handling fun. When you think about something like a Porsche, yeah, it's fast and it's leery and what have you, but can you really push it on the road? Really? Probably not. In one of these, you can. And in the Mark IV, I've got leather seats, I've got DAB radio, and I've even got climate control.
Yeah, but why do you need climate control in a convertible? Why?
Well, because I like my feet warm, but my heart cold.
Yeah, and I suppose also, if people don't buy Mark IV MX-5s, there are no low-cost, cheap sports cars of the future.
This is true. Anyway, with all that done and dusted, I need some food. Do you reckon there's a Byron burger around here somewhere?
What's Byron burger? There's a Wimpy.